Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer, and today we're here for something new. We're going to be doing yet another tier list, this time with the Great People of Civilization 6. So unlike the Wonders and the Leaders, I'm not going to do an individual video for every single great person. We're just going to do them by class, starting with the Great Scientist today. So I'll talk about each of their bonuses and some of the reasons why you would want to use them or perhaps not. And then we're going to give them a ranking and have a ranking tier list overall. So this is going to go in the spreadsheet with the other tier lists as another page, so I will link that in the video description below if you want to take a look at this yourself for reference while you're playing. So let's go ahead and jump right into things here with the first great people that will be available to you in the game, and that is the Classical Era Great Scientists. So although they are Classical Era Great Scientists, you still can recruit them in the Ancient Era. That's just what they're technically classified as. So the very first one is Aryabhata, and their bonus is that they will trigger the Eureka for 3 random technologies in the Classical or Medieval Era. This bonus is okay. It is nice that it is 3 technologies because some of the later ones don't even give the Eureka for 3, but the thing is, at the end of the day, this is just a random Eureka boost, and 3 Eurekas at this point is equivalent to, probably about 10 or 15 turns worth of scientific research, so that is actually an okay bonus, but the fact that it's random makes it really hard to actually utilize effectively. It's kind of just a nice little science boost, so for that reason, I think that this Great Scientist is going to get a 2. Next up on the list, we have Hypatia, and Hypatia makes it so that libraries will provide +1 science, and also a library is instantly built in the district that you use Hypatia in. Hypatia is a very, very good great scientist, so there are a few of them like Hypatia that will provide extra yields to your scientific buildings, and this is really good because these apply to all of the scientific buildings that you build throughout the game. So using Hypatia in the Classical Era means that all your libraries in all of your cities for the rest of the game will provide you with +1 science. The fact that you get a free library on top of that also saves you some production, so this is a really, really, really good bonus, and I would definitely recommend Hypatia. I'm going to go ahead and put Hypatia as a 5, as I of course forgot to mention at the start here. So silly me, I always like to mention my rating scales, but I'm just going to go on a 1 to 5 scale here, with 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. But Hypatia, easily deserving as a 5. If you see Hypatia as the first great scientist and you're planning on going for science victory, I would put in a decent amount of effort to make sure that you are able to recruit them. Next up here, we have Euclid. I don't know how to pronounce most of these people's names, especially some of the Classical Era ones, because a lot of them are, Greek or, I don't know, some other language that I don't understand because I only speak English. But Euclid, I'm going to call them Euclid. That might be totally wrong. Here, look, let me Google it real fast. The wonderful wealth of information that is YouTube has told me that it is pronounced Euclid. So we're going to go with Euclid, and Euclid's bonus is that you will get the Eureka for mathematics and 1 random technology from the Medieval Era. So this is a slightly more predictable version of Aryabhata's bonus, but also a little bit less good because it only gives you 2 Eurekas rather than 3. I still think that this falls into the 2 category. Like, it's fine, and I guess if you want to, build Petra or something like that you need mathematics for, then this can be used effectively, but overall, though, I really think that this is kind of like, it's pretty crap in comparison to Hypatia. So those are the Great Scientist ratings for the Classical Era. As I mentioned, if you want to go for a science game and you see Hypatia is the first one, definitely prioritize that. If any of these 2 are the first one, then they're really not that great. You can possibly pass on them, but the Classical Era tends to go geez, if I could speak English. The Classical Era tends to go by pretty fast, so you end up in the Medieval Era of Great Scientists a lot faster than you realize a lot of the time. Speaking of the Medieval Era of Great Scientists, let's go ahead and move on to those. So we have one of my, not actual favorites, but meme favorites in the game, and that is Hildegard of Bingen. So Hildegard of Bingen will provide you with 100 faith, and in addition to that, it makes it so that you will receive additional science bonus on your Holy Site adjacency bonus. So this actually has kind of become really good just because work ethic is now good. So the thing with this is that if you're playing someone like Russia or, anyone else, maybe like the Mali, or you take any of the pantheons that will give you extra faith on your holy sites, or you're playing someone that likes to go religion and science, then Hildegard of Bingen actually can be quite good. Because with some policy cards and stuff, you can get like 15 science per turn out of a single, you're not going to get 15 because that's not a number, but you can get like 14 or 16 science per turn out of a single holy site by using Hildegard of Bingen. So in those cases, I think that Hildegard actually is quite strong. if you don't have like any good holy sites, or if you're not really playing a religion and science game, then I think Hildegard of Bingen is pretty crap. So for that reason, I think it's going to even out to like a nice 3 out of 5. As I mentioned, since work ethic got buffed, I think that Hildegard of Bingen as well kind of indirectly got buffed, because production and science and faith on a single district is really, really strong, and something that if you can make use of it, you might as well. Next up, we have Abu al-Kazim al-Zahrawi, and his bonus makes it so that you will trigger the Eureka for one random medieval or Renaissance era technology, and in addition to this, all of your wounded units in the future will be able to heal an additional 5 HP per turn. So Abu al-Kazim is also a bit unique because he does have a passive bonus as well, so he will make it so that all units that are within 1 tile of him will gain plus 20 HP per turn healing. So this is actually really strong if you're going for domination victory, because 20 HP per turn healing is pretty substantial, because if you're outside of your own territory, I believe that healing is only, 5 or 10 HP per turn? I'll put it in a little thing on the screen here, but this is a significant boost, and it makes it so that you can actually heal a ton in between turns. One of the other really nice uses for this is if you're playing Saladin, this works out really, really well because your Mamluks can heal every single turn anyways, so you can pretty much have invincible Mamluks if you're able to get Abu al-Kazim whenever you are playing as Saladin. So for those reasons, I think that he's going to deserve a 3 as well. He is a pretty solid great scientist. The only thing, though, is that if you're not going science and domination, then he's pretty bad, and he really has, like, getting a single Eureka is pretty terrible. So for that reason, I think he's going to deserve a 3, but that's kind of like a 3, but only in certain situations. Also, I'm going to fix this because it's bugging me, so that way it's at least in the middle of the box there. Next up, we have Omar Khayyam, and his bonus is that he will trigger the Eureka for 2 technologies and the inspiration for 1 civic in the medieval or Renaissance era. This is very similar to Aryabhata, except obviously it gives you an inspiration for 1 civic as well. I feel like the inspiration for a civic actually kind of can be useful when you're going science if you haven't built up a lot of culture, but either way, it's pretty much similar in style to Aryabhata, and I think it should deserve the same rating of a 2. It's very rarely actually like significantly impactful, so for that reason, I think it deserves the 2. Next up, we have another one of my favorites, which is Isaac Newton. His bonus will instantly build a library and a university in the district. I misspelled library as well. But in addition to this, the universities across your empire will provide +2 science. So just like with Hypatia, who gives +1 science to all your libraries, Isaac Newton will do that, but +2 science to all of your universities, which is insanely strong because you're probably going to build a lot in a science game. So getting 2 science on all of them stacks up quite quickly, and this is easily a 5 great scientist. If you're going for science victory, I would highly recommend you try to get Isaac Newton, and if you can pass on maybe a great person from the medieval era and hope that you can get Isaac Newton after that instead. We also have Galileo Galilei, who will provide 250 science for each adjacent mountain tile. Galileo actually is pretty good as well because I find that this is one of the easier ones to get, so some of these other people that will give additional science from having things adjacent to them are a little bit harder to use, but in pretty much any game, you're going to be able to get at least 3 or 4 mountain tiles next to you, and in the Renaissance era, 250 science is no joke, so if you're able to get like 4 or 5, this can easily become, 1,000 science. So for those reasons, I think that Galileo Galilei deserves a 4. I don't think he's insanely good. He's not quite as good as Isaac Newton just because he's not as consistent, but for the most part, I find that I can get a nice big hefty science boost out of him, so don't be afraid to walk him across the map or anything like that to get that extra science because in the end, it still is pretty worthwhile. So for those reasons, I think that he deserves a 4. The last of the Renaissance-era great scientists is Émilie du Châtelet, which I probably butchered that, but she will provide the Eureka moment for 3 random technologies in the Renaissance or Industrial era. Man, I'm spelling things wrong left and right here. I have the Industrial era, but there we go, that one's fixed. I also, what didn't I fix before? I needed to fix library. But Emily will give you that Eureka, and once again, just like with Aryabhata or who else was it, with Omar, it's an okay bonus. I'm going to give it a 2. I might actually step these guys down to 1s at the end, but we'll go ahead and revisit things at the very end after we've given everyone a ranking, just to see if we want to change any of these. Moving on into the industrial era, first we have Charles Darwin, who will give you 500 science for each adjacent natural wonder tile. So Charles Darwin is, I'd rate him as okay. I feel like he's very similar to Galileo, except a lot less consistent, just because it's very easy to get a clump of mountains, but a little bit more difficult to get, a few natural wonder tiles that are next to each other. That being said, you can pretty much always get at least 1,000 science out of him from having 2 tiles next to each other. If you are near Mount Roraima, though, then you would be able to get quite a few. Or what's the other one? I know exactly what I'm thinking of. The one Desert Wonder that's 4 tiles. You can get 1,500. You can also get that from Pantanal, and I'm sure there's probably a few other natural wonders that you can get 3 adjacent tiles on. So I think the max here is probably going to be 2,000 science that you can get from that. I could be wrong, but either way, I find that Charles Darwin is a little bit harder to use, so for that reason, I'm going to give him a 3. A little bit less easy to use than Galileo, but still pretty good overall and worthwhile getting if you are able to. Up next, we have James Young, who will trigger the Eureka moment for 2 random technologies from the industrial or modern era, and in addition to this, he will also reveal oil before you have the technology necessary to reveal it. So, James Young, I think, is actually a little bit better than some of the other scientists that just give you Eureka moments, because revealing oil early can be really important if you want to use it either for power plants or for units. So just because of that little bit of strategic edge, I think that he's going to deserve a 3. He is definitely slightly above some of the other Eureka great scientists, so the fact that you also do get free Eurekas on top of revealing oil is just a little bit of an added bonus. Up next, we have Dmitry Mendeleev, who will trigger the Eureka for chemistry and 1 random technology from the industrial era. This is kind of crap, and I actually think that I want to change Euclid as well to a 1. I'm going to give Mendeleev a 1 as well, just because one of the things that I've thought about as I've been making this is that one of the things that sucks with these guys is that if you already have chemistry researched, then you just get 1 random technology Eureka, which really kind of sucks. So for those reasons, 2 Eurekas and possibly only 1 is not the best, so I'm going to give him a 1 overall. Moving on into the modern era, first we have Alfred Nobel, who will trigger the Eureka for 1 random technology in the modern or atomic era, and also gives 20 free Great People points towards recruiting all current and future Great People. So this actually sounds kind of good, but really it's not that good. So whenever I was first playing, I thought that this was 20 free Great People points per turn, which would just be really, really strong, but no, it's unfortunately just 20 free Great People points, period. So that is really inconsequential, because whenever you're this late in the game, most people are probably making at least 20 points per turn, so this is going to give you a very, very minute little bit of bonus towards that, and it really kind of sucks. In addition to that, the fact that it's only 1 Eureka makes it even worse, so Alfred Nobel, I think, also deserves a 1. Up next, we have Einstein, and I'm sure you can probably already guess what I'm going to give Einstein, because, so he does give the Eureka moment for 1 technology in the modern era, but he also makes it so that your universities will provide an additional +4 science, and I got spelling mistakes left and right today. What am I doing? But this +4 science does stack with Isaac Newton's, so that is really strong. It also stacks with city-state bonuses that will give bonus science to your universities, so you can probably see how this can quickly stack up. And if you have, maybe 10 cities or something like that have campuses, then 40 science across your entire empire, just absolutely ridiculous. So Albert Einstein, easily a 5 for the rating there. Alan Turing is up next, and he will trigger the Eureka moment for computers and 1 random technology from the modern era. Kind of like the other people that do this, I think that they deserve a 1. I don't think I really need to explain this one that much more. Same thing with Schrodinger. I never know how to pronounce Schrodinger's name, but he will make it so that you get the Eureka moment for 3 random technologies from the atomic or information era. Once again, not much explanation here. I think he deserves a 2. Next up, we have Janaki Amal, or Janaki. I don't know if it's Yanaki or Janaki. I believe that she is Indian, so I don't know what the proper pronunciation of that one is. But either way, you will gain plus 400 science for each rainforest tile here or adjacent. So this is, I think I would rate this as somewhere between Galileo and, and Charles Darwin. probably more towards the Galileo side, so I'm going to give Yanaki a 4, just because it's generally pretty easy. As long as you're not being, chop crazy and chopping everything in your entire empire, it's pretty easy to get at least, 3 or 4 rainforests adjacent. So it's pretty easy to get, like 1,500 or 1,600, I guess it would be 1,600 science out of Yanaki. So for that reason, I think she's pretty good and deserving of the 4. Up next, we have one of probably the most confusing great scientists, and that is Mary Leakey. So she will make it so that you gain 350 science for every artifact in the city that you use her in, and in addition to that, artifacts in all of your cities generate 300% of their normal tourism. So this is a great scientist that I am very conflicted on because she actually has some pretty good bonuses. However, I would not want to use her for a science victory because when I'm playing science victory, I generally don't have virtually any artifacts, so that part is useless. But 300% tourism on all of your artifacts is really, really strong. So for that reason, I'm still going to give her a 4, but for a little side comment there, the 4 is not for science victory. The 4 is for culture victory if you're able to get Mary Leakey when you're playing culture victory. So just keep that in mind whenever you see that rating here. Moving on to the last 3 of the great people in the information era. First up, we have Carl Sagan, who will provide 3,000 production towards a space race construction project. So the nice thing about this is that the space race construction projects are your direct win conditions for science victory, so getting 3,000 production towards one is really, really strong, and it makes it so that you can push one out really fast. Carl Sagan does only have 1 charge, though, so that means it's only really going to affect one of your space race projects, so for that reason, I'm going to give him a 4 instead of a 5, but if you're going science victory, Carl Sagan is a really good one to get. Next up, we have Stephanie Kwolek, who will double your production towards space race projects, which is also insanely strong, because once again, this directly correlates to your win condition for science victory, but it's going to double the production towards all of your space race projects, so that includes your laser stations and all of the other space parts as well, so for that reason, I think that she deserves a 5. If you're going for science victory, definitely try to recruit Stephanie Kwolek, because she does stack with the great engineers that give you additional percentage-based boosts as well. And last up, we have Abdus Salam, who will trigger the Eureka moment for all technologies from the information era. Kind of just like with all the other ones that give Eurekas. I'm going to give them a 2. So really, this is better than the 3 random Eurekas, but when you're this late in the game, getting a few Eurekas doesn't generally tend to matter quite as much because it's not going to majorly increase your science gain or majorly increase your progress towards a space victory, at least not in most cases. So for that reason, I still think that the 2 is well deserved. So here we have the final tier list. As I mentioned, I will include this in the spreadsheet along with the other tier list, which I will link in the video description below if you want to go ahead and check that out for reference as you're playing or anything of that sort. I think I'm pretty happy with these rankings, so I don't think I want to change any of them at the moment. But thank you everyone for watching. If you disagree with any of my rankings or think that things should be a little bit different, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. But thank you everyone for watching. I have been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for some more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.